hopefully we've reached some of you. I know if you're a tattoo artist, if you're any kind of an artist, in fact, if you're any kind of a human, you probably have suffered through it or are suffering through it. Right. And I do hope just acknowledging that and being able and willing to move forward and light your own path, that I hope that this gives you permission to do that.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Tattoo Guardians podcast. And this is part 2 of Imposter Syndrome. And, you know, the way I felt that I left the last episode was just kind of like starstruck, if you will, finding out what this thing is called Imposter Syndrome, along with many other things. I just wanted to come back with part 2 to clarify and leave us in the solution, because I like to get solution-based. So I appreciate a second chance at this, and I appreciate you for watching, so stay tuned. Hey, what's up, guys? How are you this week?
Good.
Good, brother.
As always.
Yes, it is good to be back.
It is, and I am enjoying our surroundings.
We worked hard. You worked real hard. For those of you who watch us on YouTube, the set looks different today. For those of you that... Yeah, go ahead.
When I first logged on, like your cameras weren't on yet, I could only hear you guys talking, and then when you turned it on, I was like, "Holy shit! It looks completely different." That's awesome, man.
We've been working hard. Hip stayed
Put some
late
time
into
into
the
that.
night, big
Nice.
time. Yeah, and I just can't. Like we decided, guys. We started out with 3 microphones, didn't even get the turntable, and we had episode 1 and 2 with no walls, right?
Correct.
Then the early episodes with studs, then the wall, then paint,
Well, besides us.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yup. Yeah, and what'd you call that? You wanted our viewers, we just take them on the journey with us from
Yeah, so everybody, like, Matt's real big on presentation and always has been, and I thought it would be valuable and vulnerable to show, like, the transparency of, like, the growth of the studio to its completion. And it's just something fun to look at, and who knows, maybe we'll put pictures up later on down the road and like actually show that for the viewers that may have missed that or not even paid attention to it. Because I mean, honestly, like I don't know if it's because I see it all the time, but it's not like I forget to notice when something changes. Now, this is very dramatic, but like when the studs came up, I didn't really pay attention to it. Then the wall came up, didn't really pay attention to it. You hung that picture Katie painted, and it's just, maybe it's just because I already see it so much and I'm familiar with it. But I think it'd be something fun for people to see that, like, it didn't have to come out the gate like 100% pristine.
That's
like
right.
we got to see some of that other foot.
That's right. I love that. Yep. I love that. We need and we're not done here. I was telling him before you came on, Josh, I want a couple Carlton prints in the mix up here somewhere too.
Oh, hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I will send some your way for sure.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I was telling him too. I've got a print of yours as well. I may have 2 of them, but I know for one, because I seen it today, I was rearranging my office. I actually got on last night and did a couple pause versus neg exercises with Guy and everybody that logged on the Reinventing the Tattoo app, and I was just in there and acted like I knew what everyone was talking about, so I just put fucking pen to paper or pencil to paper and drew, and was just nodded my head and smiled and tried to fit in the best I could. And then I started looking at my area that I was working in, and I'm like, I need to do some like rearranging, and it's just like a catch-all space. Like I keep getting stuff and putting it in there, and it just piles up and piles up. So I started giving myself room to like a little creative area. And that's when I seen that I have his print sitting there. It's in the frame and everything. And I had it hanging in an old house that we moved. And
hey, so I'm changing gears on you.
Yeah.
I just gotta let you know that shirt you're wearing is fucking really rad.
What, this shirt?
Yep, I love that shirt.
Oh shit.
This old thing?
This old little black dress.
That's that new clothing line that just dropped.
Who
Light
dropped
the
it?
Path.
Who dropped it?
Man, our brother, Mr. Joshua Carlton, who's been lighting the path, and he's bringing the rest of us along to join him in lighting the path. And you rocking the brand right now.
I am. And
I
I'm proud
appreciate
to
it, man.
rock
It's been, you probably heard me complain a little bit. It's been a bigger learning curve than expected, which is dumb because I should have expected it because everything new is a learning curve. But we're probably about a month overdue on most shipping. I've shipped everything out. Mostly yesterday. There's a little bit today going out. So if anybody that's listening, by the time this airs, they definitely will have everything. But waiting 30 days or so for a T-shirt kind of sucks. I do apologize for that for everybody. I know Mike's still waiting, but it's just little things. And I'm a perfectionist, so I was like, it's not good enough to ship yet. But it's nice to see that on your hip. It looks really good on you, and I appreciate the support, man. For real.
Yeah, thank you, man.
It looks real good.
And what a fitting name, because I was thinking about that for whatever reason I was thinking, but just it's a proper name because, like, for our listeners or anybody that follows Josh, battling with the cancer thing and going through chemo and still trying to commit to like tattoo as much as possible. So I mean, here's someone that's lit the path so far, and by any right can put down the torch or pass it to someone else, which he does, but he still carries his own.
Oh, yeah.
And continues to journey through new uncharted territories. And so, I mean, it's true to who you are as an individual, and it's inspiring to wear and know that it's like, even if you're just new to this, and inspiring people and lighting the path and continuing to like inspire everybody and move this industry forward. Yeah. If you're new to that and you get one of these, it's just fun to wear.
Yeah. And
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And being the light like Josh is reawakens our light.
Correct.
And as we are lighting the path, it reawakens other people's lights. Gives people permission to go ahead and undim their light and shine bright again, right? It's just beautiful.
Yeah, like, depending on who you surround yourself with, I think it makes a huge difference. Sometimes I'll be in like just a shitty mood or whatever, and I'll notice like the longer I'm in a shitty mood, then Nikki starts to become kind of in a little bit of a shitty mood. And, you know what I mean? Like you surround yourself by light, you surround yourself with people who are not, who are lit up. And it makes a big difference. You know what I mean? Like I think us as the trio has kind of experienced that. I think sometimes one of us will come in kind of having a rough day or whatever, and like just being around each other. Once the podcast gets warmed up, we all start kind of feeling that light. And I think there's proof right here. You know what I mean? Look at all the messages we get. Like this last episode was a pretty heavy one, right? Yeah. This last episode on Lost that Hip really carried, which you did a phenomenal job, by the way, Hip.
Yes.
Man, we got tons of messages from you listeners and tons of love for all of us, but really understanding and focusing on Hip. And I think it was a beautiful thing, man. It was really cool to experience.
Man.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I read a message, I think you guys did too, about a woman that had been like carrying some stuff for a decade, and in listening to the episode you spoke to so authentically on loss, really helped her get some closure and feel a little more complete and some healing, right? That was beautiful. Even if she's the only person that listened to this podcast, that was worth it.
It was. And, I appreciate that because it's a good segue into like what I offered up for we were going to speak on tonight, because one, I didn't listen to it when so every week, a couple days after we record on Tuesday, Mike will put it in our group chat to like view and see what we think about it. And for whatever reason, I don't know, the last few months I've just not re-listened to them. And that one I was real worried about, and I think I even shared that when I shared it to my social media platforms. Like, this one I'm a little worried about getting released, and I didn't know how I look. Because I don't know, I felt, and this is a great distinction between your feelings are not always reality, because I felt like I was just kind of maybe being like a whiny bitch, or like trying to eat off your guys' situations and getting pity from them. So I didn't know how I felt about it, but the pour in of everybody talking about it and, saying like how it helped them and allowed them to be a little bit freer with themselves.
So many. And it sounds like you're describing even that great episode that brought healing and completeness to so many people. In the midst of you being you also were feeling like an imposter.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it ain't out yet, but 2 weeks ago we recorded something. We went over imposter syndrome, and I had this revelation and found out what it was. And like I had just stated, like I pushed maybe kind of like for part 2 of imposter syndrome. And what I mean by part 2 is like, so since we've started, we'll start with the problem, but we always end with the solution. And like I had a revelation, so that was cool. I become aware of like what this is and what it means. And I lived with it for 2 weeks and vividly seen it in my life almost minute by minute.
You're talking of imposter syndrome.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was good and relieving because now I have a name to put something that I've dealt with that I couldn't express or explain to people what it was that I was feeling. So boom, I found out what that was, and then I see it everywhere in my day-to-day. And of course, the pain started getting great enough, and it was like a bittersweet thing. Like, yeah, now I'm aware of it, but it's like, you go and buy a fucking yellow van, and now everywhere you drive, you see yellow vans that you never seen before.
Sure.
So like I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing it. We had, Aisle 9 had our 4-year anniversary like a week ago. Maybe a week and a day, it doesn't matter. But a couple years prior to that, and this may have been my breaking point, right? So a couple years prior to that, Matt makes trophies for everybody, and we have like goofy categories and things, and we win trophies. Well, we're supposed to vote for ourselves, which I didn't do a couple years ago, and vote for the coworker we believe that has the best chance of winning whatever said category.
Each category, everyone gets 2 votes. So we got a category of best artist. You can vote for the 2 brothers or sisters in your shop that you think deserve the award, the best artist. And if you think you are one of the best artists, you're allowed and should vote for who you think deserves this trophy. And Hip, even though all the categories 2 years ago, because last year, COVID, we didn't have it, he didn't vote for himself. He's the only one that didn't. And
I'm not an arrogant asshole.
And he didn't win anything and immediately was bummed by it.
Oh, in my feels.
Uh-huh. So here we are 2 years later. We're having another one. Same categories are pretty darn close. The only people that vote is the staff, right? You're voted by your peers. And this year I told Hip, hey, don't make that same mistake. You need to love and respect yourself. If you believe you're the best artist or you any of these categories, cast a vote for yourself and then vote for me or whoever else, right? And he was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, dude, this isn't an ego and arrogance thing. This is what everyone does. And he wouldn't do it. And even before I counted the tallies, I pulled him aside like last chance, He did not vote for himself, and he won 3 awards this year.
3.
And he
Nice.
won Best Artist of the Year, all voted by our peers.
And don't you know, I still felt like the same way I did when I didn't win anything.
He still felt like an imposter.
Oh, totally. Because Matt fucking got everybody on the fucking self-pity train for Hip, and let's just fucking pacify him and give him these awards.
Which I didn't, but that's the story he was running.
Right, but
Did you get some graham crackers and some juice?
Yeah, and they got me a burger with my French fries and called the ambulance for me.
Good.
But I was identifying that now I have a name or a label, right? Because once I can label my root of the problem, now I can start getting to the solution. Well, the pain got great enough, and I'm like, well, this is stupid. Like, I'm supposed to be enjoying myself tonight. Everybody else is enjoying themselves, but I had to carry that fake smile and shake hands and hug people that congratulated me because it's well-deserved, and it's like blah, blah, bullshit. So what is my solution? Which is why I asked to do part 2 of Imposter Syndrome.
Right.
Because, the pain don't always have to get great enough for us to change. We can start getting in the solution. before we hit that rock bottom, whatever that looks like, in whatever area of our lives it looks like. So boom, I go into what I know. Pain shared is pain lessened. So I start speaking to people that may have experience with this, just so I can get some me too's. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah, me too. Cool. And I started reaching out to people and journaling about it. I reached out to one of my mentors, one of my life mentors, and like, he basically was, I'm in an area in my life right now where I'm writing a lot about like harm that I've caused and making an amends for that harm. And, I couldn't wait to get to like this new chapter in my life so I could actually start addressing this imposter syndrome. And he was like, well, isn't it funny where you're at right now in your life? You're on an area where you're looking for people to make amends to. And he was like, imagine you meet a little boy that was taught like perverted or misinformed ways to view himself and beat himself up for years, and then got older and became this man and beat himself up for years. Wouldn't you feel sorry for him? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, do you think he would owe himself an apology and amends? And I'm like, yeah. And I see where he's going with this. I'm like, I'm right. Again, I'm right where I'm supposed to be at. And he's like, well, then, you need to put yourself on that list and make an amends to yourself, which are hard for me to do. I almost prefer fucking up real bad and making amends for that than doing it to myself, because it almost seems like I'm just following suit. So I'm like, okay, cool. But still, my curiosity wants me to find out where it came from. And he's like, well, I don't know. When you journal in the mornings, try thinking back to when this first started happening. So boom, I get on my journal. I start journaling. And I find out that like, I always say I'm a mama's boy with daddy issues because daddy wasn't there. And my mom, she was a single mother, raised us three. My brother and sister are way older than me, so I was often left to my own devices and being young. And I wasn't getting a lot of attention, I guess. So what I would do bad shit. Would the bad shit get me? It got me fucking hell of attention. I've set the house on fire multiple times, torturing animals like crazy fucking shit, but I would get attention. And I was, on top of that, I would hear side conversations from my parents or grandparents or older siblings talking about like, what are we going to do with Justin? All this, all that. And I don't know, somewhere along the lines, maybe that fed into the imposter syndrome, meaning like at a young age, I was picking up, what are we going to do about Justin? What about, what if, and lived into that to now when, habits, good or bad, practiced over long periods of time become hard to break. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten to that point with it. Then wasn't satisfied with the answer and reached out to another mentor in life. And he basically told me, and it was pretty simple, but it's complex. In this journey we're going, we can go as deep as we want down the rabbit hole because it has no end. Instead, how about live present in the moment, and all we are right now is just consciousness becoming conscious of itself. So it's like, I still haven't even grasped that concept completely, but I know the gist of what he was saying, and it's like imposter syndrome, not imposter syndrome, addict, not an addict, fucking liar, not a liar. It don't matter. Live for right now in this moment and just enjoy every second of it. And it's a big conundrum, but it's getting more, I'm applying more acceptance and surrender to the fact that like you've just found out some more knowledge. It ain't going to ruin your day. Keep growing and keep accepting that like put some humility on it, right? Like I'm not this horrible fucking person who is morally deficient. I am just a human along for the ride, and it's like people look up to me. I can't tell you how many times, Josh, you've told me on this podcast that just how I was the kid that went and bought the Joshua Carlton book and Frankenstein my machines together and learned how to set my machines up properly. And just one day dreaming and wondering, what you're like and what's his voice sound like and what's his hand feel like when you shake it. There's someone out there that's like that to me. And it's like,
right.
That was even hard for me to say that just now, but I have to, if I'm applying humility, I have to be able to accept that I am touching lives somehow, somewhere, some way. And I do deserve these trophies, which is hard to fucking say because now I just sound like bougie.
That's good to hear you say it though, because you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy for Matt and I to look at you and feel that and see that, but it's also easy for anybody that's on the outside to see problems. You ever see a couple and you go, oh, I see why they argue all the time. You can clearly see their problems from the outside.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So to Matt and I, ever since I've known you, I see that you're this amazing person that's constantly growing and thriving. And, you were touching lives well before the podcast. But, Matt and I joke around about it, but you actually get more messages than either of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's because you guys are telling people to do that.
And you know what? Another award he won was most approachable. It was a category.
Yeah. And I think that's something, I think you're extremely approachable. And, I think that really is a testament to your character is that, I've got this, 30-year career and, you've put me up on this pedestal. But to be honest with you, I don't know if you saw the most recent email, shout out to Dan Christian, an incredible painter and good friend. He mentioned, I think it was earlier today maybe he's on YouTube, hey, I've known Josh for a while. I came to the podcast for Josh, but I stayed for him. You know what I mean? And this guy teaches painting techniques in Thailand. He's an actual master realism trompe l'oeil painter that his tattooed forever. I don't know if he quit tattooing, but I think he's at least taking a break from it. Yeah. But he moved out there to head up it's called the Annie Art Academy. He's the master teacher there.
Wow.
And this guy was really feeling what you were putting down, Hip. You know what I mean? So I don't think he's part of the conspiracy.
Come on. Come on. My God, how's that make you feel in this present moment? Can you receive that?
I'll take that. I'll receive it.
There you go.
I'm receiving it too. You fucking fraud. Just kidding.
That's the fine line is not letting Hip get a huge head as it grows as it happens, right? It's like yeah, you're awesome, but you're not that awesome. Fucking tone it back.
Next episode, he's shirtless.
Right, yeah. Because another thing you want to be careful of is you don't want to be surrounded by sycophants or people who are yes men that are just constantly telling you every idea you have is grand and great and. I see it happen a lot. Like Matt's in a really good position where I could see, I can't see that happening to Matt, but I can see that happening to somebody else in Matt's position, right? So he's got this successful tattoo studio, very successful tattoo business mastery. The podcast is doing well. So if Matt was to be like, I just think we should fill the studio full of parrots. It'd be easy for people to be like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just going to say what, and then it's just filled with parrots and it's fucking stupid, Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
There better be some fucking parrots there next week or I'm quitting. So.
Yeah. Right. And kind of like what you said, we've brought this up before that one, success is a shitty teacher and that your enemies will promote you quicker than your friends will.
Right. And what you just said right there, I forgot about this. You said, and it is, success is a shitty teacher. So it's like, maybe there's something in me that is scared to receive the blessings for like what Josh was just saying, like an ego thing. Like it's almost like me checking my oversensitive ego to keep that in place. Mm-hmm. And neither one, an oversensitive ego and being arrogant and cocky isn't serving me, but also being like refusing to take these blessings and like just accept them isn't, which in the middle you have humility. So it's like I like to think of myself as like applying humility, and I know that humble doesn't speak on itself, but I always try to be a humble person.
Man, you so humble, bro.
I know, man. Like you take the 3 most humble people you know, have them have sex, make a baby. I'm still humbler than that baby.
Boom. I think that it's good to be humble, but you don't want to. It's also very good to be honest with yourself on both sides, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're actually not doing something well. Let's just take tattooing, for example. You've heard me talk a lot about actually physically printing your work out, laying it out on the table, and being really honest with yourself, because you can definitely go the other way. Yep. You can definitely be like, yeah, I know that line's a little shaky, but I think it gives it character. It's like, you're just bullshitting yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've actually heard that exact thing being said at one of your educationals.
Yeah, like one of the teachers said it.
No, okay. It was a student.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. You know what I mean? And like that probably stems from him being surrounded by all these people. King shit on Turd Island. He's just surrounded by all these people that are always telling how great it is. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. Actually, is I did it for a reason. I wanted to let it breathe, or I'm going to add this to it later. As soon as you start to give it any kind of constructive criticism, they're chambered. They're not even really listening to you. They've just got an answer chambered on why they did what they did. And so you just take a little time to be quiet, take a little time to listen for real, and it doesn't even necessarily mean it's right. You've heard me in the past talk about, and not to sway from the conversation, but talk about critiquing work. Like if you consistently hear the same thing, like you need to work on this, then maybe it's time to listen. If every once in a while somebody just says something, especially if you're asking them to critique, you're almost forcing them to find a flaw, right?
Yeah.
So if there's some random thing that jumps out that you do disagree with because maybe you did do something on purpose, but if like 5 people tell you the same thing, like, hey, Hip, I know you think it's cool when you do X, Y, and Z, but it's kind of dumb. Sometimes it's time to sit back and listen. You know what I mean?
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, fuck, dude. The same can be said if someone keeps telling you like a compliment. Maybe it's time to receive it.
Okay.
You see what I did there? I meant for those lines to be shaky. That's exactly what I was trying to say. I am fucking smart.
Thanks for tuning in this week, y'all.
Yeah. So little do the listeners know is that I'm super confident right now because there's apparently a giant screen in the new studio where my head is like 60-something inches big. So
that's right.
I just feel extra like I'm like my people.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, as cool as that sounded, I did not mean any of that, but I do agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah. It is time. It is 100% time to listen. That's when enough people say it. And I'm pretty sure you got a wrestling belt. So, I mean, doesn't that kind of mean, doesn't that bypass everything? Doesn't that surpass everything?
Come on, my man's got the belt.
Did you get the wrestling belt?
I did. I did get the
Case
wrestling
fucking
belt.
Closed.
That's it.
I don't want to fucking hear about it.
That's right. Oh, wow. You cleaned house.
Yeah.
Life's so hard.
Yeah.
There were 6 awards. He won 3 of them.
Yeah.
For real. For the record, we actually tied for most approachable. But he's so approachable in my life. When I'm going through stuff, I go to Hip. And so that was the tiebreaker, I was giving him a moment on stage to give it back to me because I too am, but he didn't.
I was practicing accepting.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. No. And try to keep in mind, I am blessed every morning. And I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Hip, but every morning I get a text from Hip that tells me that I'm healthy and whole and thriving. Every day, every single morning. In fact, at this point, it would be worrisome if he didn't text me. And our time zones are different, so it's very early in the morning, which is perfect for me because it actually wakes me up. I sleep with my phone in my bed. I have this paranoia about my daughter needing me or something and texting me, so I wake up to Hip's text, which is kind of a really nice start of my day. And if you remember early on in the podcast, I told you, and looking back, it's kind of embarrassing to say because it sounds like an asshole thing, but I don't get along with a lot of people. I just don't click super well with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Think about how many times I reach out to you, Hip. How many times have I asked you for advice? So,
Come on.
I know that multiple times you mentioned, what does his voice sound like? What's it like to shake his hand? How often do I reach out for your advice? Yeah. Pretty common.
Yeah.
Right.
Me
do you think I'm just making that up? Do you think I don't have fucking time for that shit.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
right.
like when I reach out to you and I reach out to Matt, it's because I trust you and I love you.
Yes.
And
I love you.
Your words and experiences hold a lot of weight with me.
Man.
And I'm not trying to make something to make it easier for you. It's just real. You just need to know it's real. Mm-hmm. And you've earned this, and you've got a rough past. So I understand. I don't understand. I can't pretend to understand what you've been through. I can only understand what I've been through. But from what I understand, where you come from, I can completely see how you would be like, how is this? How am I looked up to, sought after? How would somebody want my opinion when I'm the guy that would break into your house and help you look for this stuff, as you've said in the past, right?
Right.
But I just don't think that's you at all anymore. And I think that you've earned the position that you're in. And I think it's time to maybe thrive a little bit.
Come on.
I think you deserve it.
Woo.
Appreciate that.
My God, yes, because he's speaking to your faithfulness of being consistent. The awards you won wasn't for one cool thing you did one day. The acknowledgement you got wasn't just for you doing or saying something cool one day. It is your continual persistence to remain faithful to doing it and being that every day. And you've worked hard for years, the past 2 years, and you showed up and won the belt. Just like a boxer that's every day in the gym, every day watching his diet, every day running, every day grinding. Same with you. It's every day. No matter what. For one moment at night, you were acknowledged with a belt for that. But you were acknowledged one day for the many days that you've remained faithful. You earned it. Yep.
Yeah, I think it would be really hard for somebody to argue that you're not an incredibly hard worker.
Right.
Every single time I sign up and join up for the podcast,
yes,
you're sitting in that chair ready to go.
Right.
You might come on and tell me you didn't want to be there. You've had a rough day.
Yeah.
But you're here. I was just listening to a podcast in the vehicle about how you didn't want to be at the studio. You wanted to be anywhere but the shop, but you needed to help somebody. Mm-hmm. And you were there. Mm-hmm. And Matt, I loved what Matt said. Sometimes you just need to be, and you were.
Man.
And I really, really feel that that's a good example of setting an example. You know what I mean? So like you might not understand. You have a lot of phrases. You have a lot of things that you like to repeat that mean something to you. Mm-hmm. But your actions, to me, speak a much louder volume.
Wow.
And so by you being there and showing up and consistently doing the things you said, you've never told me you were going to do something and not come through. Not once.
Come on. Yeah,
but
that's right.
How many people have done that to me and you and like all of us, right?
Yeah, yep.
But not from you.
Man.
Right?
Yeah.
So you hear me talk a lot about my friend Riley. I'm always bragging about how he's going to show up.
Yep.
Well, I only surround myself with people that are like that.
Yeah.
You're at the table.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
Keep doing that.
Yep.
If there's anything I learned from being older than you guys is keep fucking doing that. Show up. Be present.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear excuses. I want to see what your actions are. I want to see what you're going to do. You can do this mouth thing all day long and tell me what you're going to do. I don't give a fuck. I used to be the same way. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Just be quiet and do it.
Come on, Josh. Woo, talk to him, boy. Yeah.
So hopefully that can give you a little bit of at least, and I don't expect it to be overnight, but I'm excited to see you start to own some of this. I'm excited to see you start to accept some of this because, man, you've been through some shit.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah, and we all we all have our trials and tribulations, and we can't gauge each other's traumas. And the most important thing for me right now is to just like stay in the solution and just keep move. Like you were saying, be that. So keep staying in the solution, and this too shall pass.
I've heard you even say things like, because of what I'm going through, or I know Matt was going through or still is actually going through a really rough time, and you almost felt guilty. You're like, oh man, like everything's coming up roses for Hip. And well, you know what I mean? It's like, that's just how life works. It's like, I went through a big why me phase. Why did I get fucking cancer? Why didn't the fucking asshole down the street that, broke my window, he's fucking walking around without cancer? It's like, it's all a gamble. It's all, this is nothing but chance, man. You know what I mean? Like, for the most part, like, I mean, obviously what we just talked about, you can carry a lot of your future by acting a certain way and doing the things you say you're going to do. But we're all like kind of blown in the wind, right, Matt?
Yeah, brother.
There's one coming down the pipe with my name on it. Man.
Yeah. Man. And it's easy. It's so easy to get to carry imposter syndrome around, especially when you don't know what it means. Especially, when good things happen. Like, I've always been weirdly guilty about money. Like, if I get more money than I feel like I'm owed or deserve, I almost immediately give it away or somehow share it. I just have this weird feeling of like, I don't earn it, I don't deserve it kind of thing. So that's something that I've actually been working with Matt on. I hope you don't mind me on air talking about that, Matt. Yeah. But Matt's helped me a lot in understanding my value and my worth. And I got to be honest with you, it's made me a better tattooer, a better painter. Not monetarily, but just being like, I do deserve that. You know what I mean? Like, I did work really hard. I think I saw somewhere where someone said, if I do a job in 10 minutes, you're not paying for the 10 minutes. You're paying for the 30 years it took me to be able to do it in 10 minutes.
Yep. Correct.
But it doesn't make it worth less. Like, a lot of tattoo artists,
that's right.
They have this weird thing of like, well, it took less time, so it should cost less. But it's like, but is it amazing? Isn't that the value? And also the value, isn't the value of the two people that have decided that it's worth this?
Come on. That's
right?
It.
And I'm sorry I'm so all over the place. I just remembered seeing that the other day. I was actually teaching a seminar, and we were talking about that, and the particular person was a very, very talented tattoo artist, way, way underpricing their work. And I was trying to like level them up a little bit, and man, talk about imposter syndrome. They were just like, well, you've been tattooing for this long, and it's like they had been tattooing long enough that it should have been raised. It hadn't been raised in forever. And I mean, absolutely beautiful work, but she just felt that she didn't deserve it, or she wasn't worth it. And as someone who's carried around, I'm not worth it for so fucking long. Yeah. Man, shed that shit. All of you listeners out there, like, it's time to shed that stuff. Seriously. Yes. It just weighs you down. It's nothing but a burden. It's likely not true,
Right.
I think it's big. I feel it in the tattoo industry so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had to evaluate and then reevaluate and then reevaluate with my personal relationship with money, because like money and imposter syndrome, they almost go hand in hand. And
absolutely,
we totally devalue ourselves. And that thing you were talking about, I remember reading it. It was like some kind of quote or a little fable of like a sailor coming in. And he charged way more than everyone else, and he only brought a hammer with him, whereas everyone else that wasn't charging as much brought all these tools. He come in and like hit the ship in one spot and fixed it, and you didn't pay him for the hit or him to bring the hammer. You paid him for the years of experience it took to know what tool to bring and how to fix it quickly, and why he charged his prices or something along those lines. Right. But yeah, and still it's a daily evaluation, of what I choose money, what I want it to be, and what it means, and then the fictitious side of me that tries to like devalue myself and make it mean like that it's some sort of morality issue going on. And I've just always had to like reevaluate that. And the cool thing is like I got a team that like holds me accountable and is chasing the same dreams I am. So like we're on the same level of like what money is. But I get it, because like in this industry, you know, fucking it's a dog eat dog world, and it's like undercutting, and you should feel ashamed if you go past X, Y, and Z mark, or right. if this rates this, and it's just so chopped up and screwed. And it's like, when I calm all that bullshit down and I think, and I'm like, dude, this ain't my practice life, and I'm on borrowed time, so this shit has to fucking count. I mean, you know, I've heard, you know, Matt tell someone before, you know, he gives them a rate and they're like, no, that's too expensive for a tattoo. And he's like, well, okay, I'll give you 20 grand right now for your arm, and they won't come off of it. And it was like, so right. Your arm's obviously worth more to you than 20 grand. You know, what kind of price can I give you to fucking, for you to be away from your kids, you know, or your right. wife? You know, right. what's that cost? So whoever it is that sits on these high and mighty thrones that's going to dictate, you know, what you should be and what you should charge, fucking, where did that even come from? You know, and I get it. I know where it came from, but I just choose not to like dive deep and back into that, because it took me so long to fucking shed it, and it's still a process of shedding it.
So with that being said, it sounds like you may have come to some sort of a solution, at least the beginning of one. So to our listeners that are realizing that they suffer from imposter syndrome, what are some things that you have found maybe have helped you to at least start the process to moving past it and growing as an artist and as a person?
Well, definitely who I surround myself with, and you spoke on that, and I can always get on that train. Yeah. But man, my go-to is any pain that I feel, irregardless of what it is, the more I share it and vocalize it, the less power I am giving it.
Wow.
And in doing that, you know, I'm now not only right, because I don't go into my own head without a friend and a flashlight, and every time I do, I come out fucking more insane than I went in. So right. When I share it, I get feedback or suggestions back from people who may give me a different way to view it or a different perception on that. And, you know, one of the things I've been doing is journaling on it, trying to like reverse engineer it. Now, is that important? Yeah, you know, for the time being, it is important, you know, to try to see where this came from, so I can find the exact root of the exact nature of where this came from, and then now erase that canvas and start blank, and now I can make it mean what I want it to mean. And it doesn't have to mean any of this, but along the way, being around people like yourselves that like see good in me and continually remind me who I am, because I forget on a daily basis who I am, and I need your guys' permission for me to be me. So to put myself around people that are going to remind me who I am and be like, hey, you can still be that awesome motherfucker with that wrestling belt you just won. Oh yeah, that's right, I did do that. Thank you for that. Yep. So all these things are solution based. But yeah, journaling, I've been doing that every morning, touching on it. And I've been getting some closure with it. And then again, you know, it's just like fucking jazz music. Like you learn all this music theory to find out that none of it means shit, and you just do what the fuck you want. So I'm learning all this theory to find out that like it's all right. You're still you. The world hasn't ended. And you've been aware of this the whole time. All you did was find a cool little fucking catchphrase to call it. So it's like, keep that shit moving and don't dwell on it too much. And I'm sharing this more for myself than I am the viewers right now.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic advice. I think that, you know, one of the things I've learned is that I'm such a doer on my own, and I try to take on the world. You know what I mean? But I'm taking on the world completely alone. And so being able to reach out to you, Hip, being able to reach out to you, Matt, I've heard both of you use the terms refueling in the past or tagging in. And I never had that before. And, you know, I think sometimes it's hard to ask for help, but sometimes it's kind of amazing how just a quick little, hey, just checking in on you. What are your thoughts about this, right? And it gives me closure. It gives me permission, whatever it is. I'm a big fan of closure. It's kind of amazing how much I personally need that. So for our listeners, I think what Hip was saying is a lot of what wonderful information on how to get started on that. But if you find yourself kind of take on the world alone and do everything yourself, it's a little lonely there. You know what I mean? And so surrounding yourself might be part of the answer, but I just didn't even allow myself to surround myself. I just kind of like worked with people in the shop. I wasn't a dick or anything. I was always friends with people in the studio.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. For me, it was very difficult to make real friends after school. Like I've got my friend Sean King and I've got thousands of followers on Instagram or whatever, but like my real friends, you know what I mean? Like I can actually refuel from. That's tough.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like Matt, I think you having the studio allows you to be surrounded by some amazing people, but you have any thoughts on somebody maybe out in a private studio or not even a tattoo artist, like any thoughts on just how do you surround yourself with light when it's not around you?
Thank you. And our brother Zachary Good, who's one of the leaders at our shop now, and 4 years ago he was asking a similar question because he had the desire to want to be surrounded by those types of folks and didn't know any of them, right? And this goes back to when you focus on what you want and who you want to become, the whole universe is designed to serve us, will bring them to you. Once you're in the doing, like you become a magnet, the how, the right people will be brought to you. And isn't it funny, though, the things we say we want, been praying for, like want really bad, and then right when there's evidence that it's about to be yours, you get weird. You get uncomfortable and almost like, oh, now that it's here, like, I don't know. Even back in the days, like, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but like if I was like, had a big crush on a girl, right? And I actually wanted to holler at her or maybe go on a date or whatever. Until it happened, then I became real scared and was like, oh God, I don't know that I can do this, right? But that's just example. We say we want these things, and then when it actually starts to manifest, we almost immediately will self-sabotage and not receive it, Right. But back to Josh's question, so I told Zach, like, hey, they don't have to be in the flesh. We've talked this before. When you start seeking out to surround yourself by those people, even if it's in the form of a book or on YouTube, and in the beginning, I surrounded myself with people I didn't know digitally, but by changing my frequency, by starting to learn to receive from other people, even if it was a stranger on YouTube, and I'm talking for years, eventually those types of people started just showing up in my life that I couldn't have planned or guessed, and they just started showing up in my life one by one, relationship by relationship, and that deal will snowball effect to where now I know more great men and women, got more coaches, more mentors, and I'm lucky to not be in the smartest man in the room in a lot of rooms I'm in now. And a couple years ago, I didn't know any of them. I couldn't have planned. I couldn't have said, yo, I want to be. Now I'm to the point where I want to be friends and have a relationship with that dude or with that chick. And I'll start declaring, almost putting out in the universe for a way for us to actually meet and become friends. So again, it's ongoing. But when you really get in the right head and heart space, and that's what you want, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear.
Right.
What you got?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What he's saying is totally true. Because, I mean, if I go back, when I got that book that you wrote, I didn't know who the fuck you were. Like, I was still a baby. And like, when you come into this, there's so many prolific people, but for whatever reason, I picked it up and I was like, yeah, fucking Joshua Carlson, like, yeah, cool. Fuck it. I'll buy it. And then who knows, that right then could have been me surrounded, with some bullshit, and someone lit the path for me indirectly just by fucking writing a book and having it hit some shelves. I pick it up And through that, maybe in some different fucking realm, I'm picking up some discernment on like, wow, this dude's cool. Like I like he used this word instead of that word. So that was attractive to me, and slowly but surely then I had to fucking meet Matt. Maybe me buying that book caused me to meet you and then be able to work with you. And that led me into like being able to go to Evergreen and then going to Evergreen and like meeting Josh. And then it's like, well, if that's the fucking way this thing works out, then I didn't come all this way to come this far.
Right.
What about fucking every time I've listened to Les Brown or, fucking looked up to fucking, wondered like fucking shit that Steve Butcher does or fucking Nico or this person or that person, and I reinventing the fucking tattoo, and I was like, we just had fucking Guy on, and
that's right.
Who knows?
Because you changed who you were being.
Right.
What Josh, when he acknowledged you a little bit ago, he's like, keep being that. Keep doing that. You're able to do that because you've chosen to be that. And somewhere along the lines, something got you to make a different decision on who you wanted to be. Somehow, someone made you think it was possible for you, despite your past, whatever. And you at least had a new desire. I want to be better. I want to be fill in the blank. And along the way, because you consciously decided or made the effort to be someone better, a better version of yourself, the whole universe, God, source, everybody coming like, okay, you're ready to be? Then receive. Here comes. Mm-hmm. Here comes this book that you don't know, but you don't know the plans I have for you are greater than what you could even imagine right now. You like this book? How about I orchestrate you getting to meet the author of this book, whatever the case may be. And now you're sitting here podcasting with him, right?
Right.
If the right people will be brought into our lives the second we're open to receiving and to go ahead and be. You cannot give what you don't have, right? And I know that you have a heart for people. You build people up. You encourage them. You're a leader at our shop. You mentor other people. But how much power do you have in someone else's life if you first haven't received it? You cannot give what you can't. This isn't even about, and so like for myself, for example, I don't want to just be loving. I want to be love. Well, I doubt I can be love if I'm not allowing myself to receive any. Right. How can I be love in your life, light in your life? How much can I light the path if I'm keeping my own shit dim? Right? So even if it helps you to receive, knowing that you can be, and when Josh was talking about basically being an island, and it reminded me of that old quote that, yeah, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Right? Look, it's three of us on here right now, which is way cooler than if it was just me and a microphone, right? We not only need each other to remind each other who we are, to help fill one another's tanks when we're having a day and our tanks running empty, whatever the case may be, but to encourage, to sharpen one another, and to call forth your best. The fact that he acknowledged that you're always here, you show up, and it's who you are, how you show up, and you're here and ready. It makes us be like, we need to show up too, right? This is where, again, back to who you surround yourself with. And for you listeners that love the idea and you can't see a way, make the shift in your heart. If you really want it, you live in a universe of infinite possibilities. The right people that's meant to build you up in your life and your career are already living, walking, breathing all around you. And the universe has a wonderful way of your paths connecting and crossing. Do you really want that, though? Are you really ready? Because it's no skin off the universe's back to give you that, and you're worthy of it. This is where you got to, out of desire, even if you listeners like, I don't feel like I deserve it. My past, I've fucked up so many times, whatever. Cool. Welcome to the club.
Yeah. Right.
But what about right now, right? You're talking about, who am I being in this moment? Yesterday does not matter. Who do you want to be today? Thank God you still have a choice.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
More will be revealed.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's just, again, it's just so important to, like, for at least for me, to be transparent with like my process, I guess. Because, it's like this with everything, and it's always important. Like, yeah, it's cool to, like, soak in some shit for a little bit, but we don't pitch a tit in self-pityville.
That's right.
So, like, it's time to start getting into the solution.
Yeah.
And it's been real helpful, and, yeah, for whatever it's worth.
Mm-hmm. And imposter syndrome, which we all deal with, especially when you're growing, especially when you're setting a new goal, especially when you're out of your comfort zone, trekking towards new territory. I'm clear on the vision. This is where I want to go, but I've never been there yet. So the second it's foreign is when imposter syndrome shows up.
And when you're surrounded by fucking greats, too.
That's right.
And like, if your dreams if they don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Come on.
So it's like, I'd rather what's Les Brown say? I'd rather aim high and miss than aim low and hit.
Come on. That's right. But along that way, and I was just for you listeners, it's to feel imposter syndrome not only is normal, but can be good sign and evidence that you are growing because it feels so foreign. But we don't want to pitch a tent and stay there in imposter syndrome, because now you're going to rob all of us of who you're supposed to be, who you're stepping into being, let alone robbing yourself. If we'd have given imposter syndrome before we did this podcast, all the messages, all the listeners, those of you listening right now, we would have robbed you of this. We would have robbed ourselves. I'm just using that as an example of why not to give into that and cross over into what I call false humility. You're going to rob yourself and the rest of the world of who you're meant to be. And you're the only one that can do you. You were created and placed here on purpose, for a purpose. We need you to be you. Keep going, keep growing. Please do not rob us of the impact you're meant to have in our lives and the impact you're meant to experience in your own life. It all matters.
I think just being aware, hopefully for our listeners, just being aware of imposter syndrome. Yeah. And just being able to identify of like, oh shit, like I watched Hip kind of wake up with it. Like, oh, that's what I've been doing. So hopefully we've reached some of you. I know if you're a tattoo artist, if you're any kind of an artist, in fact, if you're any kind of a human, you probably have suffered through it or are suffering through it. Right. And I do hope just acknowledging that and being able and willing to move forward and light your own path, that I hope that this gives you permission to do that at the very least.
Yes.
That'll make me happy. If at the very least somebody acknowledges it and says, you know what, I've been in a rut and this makes sense to me now, and at least now I know what to start chipping away at, you know?
Yep. I love it.
Otherwise you just get lost, right? I just felt so lost in my life so many times. No matter how much success I had,
right,
I just felt lost.
Yes.
And once I started to understand what I was personally going through, it helped clear things up, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And yeah, back to even the power in sharing it. What Josh just shared, I know is powerful in so many people's lives. To hear that, let alone hear it coming from the great Joshua Carlton, right? Who has been called great countless times, and all the while feeling like he doesn't deserve to be called that today. Imposter syndrome. But we meant it when we said it, right? Josh couldn't convince us otherwise. Isn't it funny how we're always the last to know?
You know? Right, yeah. And what's funny is, like, you've heard me say it before, is like I've tried to bring it up in seminars and in conversations, and people will just kind of laugh. You know what I mean? I'll be like, I lost sleep over this tattoo, and they're like, haha. They don't even take it seriously, and I'm like, no, I really did. That's my problem. You know what I mean? Brian Brenner was on the show, and he was like, why do you still care? You've been tattooing for 30 years, and you're still trying so hard to be the best. Man. Why do you still care? And it's like, I personally can't help it. I don't want to help it. I fucking love tattooing. I respect tattooing. I cherish tattooing. And I'm going to care as long as I can. And that's nothing against Brian, because I love Brian and his work. He wasn't speaking about that. He was speaking... Basically, I think he was telling me, you could do what you're already doing and you're going to be fine.
That's right.
So stop trying so hard and making it so hard for you. But I'm not that person. I'm not able to do that.
And I love that
about
you.
I don't think I want to. Yeah, I don't think I want to change, to be honest with you.
To me, you have you're like the Kobe Bryant of tattooers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like the dude that fucking will outwork and obsess and be like working and thinking about his craft more than anybody. To where his own dudes on his team's like, dude, what are you doing?
Chill
You know
the
what I'm
fuck
saying?
out.
I really respect that shit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Fucker.
man. Yeah. And I could hear in his thank you that he just received that. And that's a good thing, right? And it's weird because, even when you receive it, doesn't mean that this is going to keep me full forever. Like Imposter Syndrome, that's good fill up that may last an hour or may last 5 minutes. It may last a couple days. But that is going to go away and boom, he's going to need to be reminded, whether he reminds himself, whether we do, that he's still great, right? We all do. You remind me that I got the goods when I forget or don't feel like it today. Back to being surrounded by people that are going to hold you accountable to your true self.
Man.
It's fucking important. I thank God for you guys in my life, because in the midst of me not being shit, you got me thinking I'm just might be, right? But no, it's good.
Imagine how much better the world could be if that's how we treated each other all the time.
Man, that's right.
I'm not trying to be some hero or pretend I've got the answers, but Mike said it best. I don't know what the question is, right? But the answer is love.
That's
and it's
right.
Like, what a profound, simple solution.
Man.
So if we can spark a little bit of light, if we can spark a little bit of some of that, I'm realistic about what we set our goals to be.
Yeah.
And like I said, from the communication and from the messages we receive, again, we hear you and we love you, and please keep them coming because we do read all of them. In fact, we share them. We share them with each other.
Yes.
So
I love that.
Again, if you're out there, if you're listening, and you're just discovering imposter syndrome, and you feel like we are talking about you, I think it's time to start giving yourself a little bit of grace.
Come on, man. Shout out to Toby Nwigwe when he says, "I love it." The real's gonna understand. I pray the fakers listen. If you a fraud on your squad, there's still time to change position. Before I ever had a pot to piss in, me, Joshua Carlton, and Hip envisioned every piece of fruit we just brought into fruition. Ugh.
Damn.
Come on. Hey, there's our time, brethren.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Woo.
I got some closure from this one.
Good.
Yeah, and I hope it helps somebody.
You guys get me all stirred up now.
And I say all that to say.
He gave an amazing brother a shout out. Do you want to shout anyone out before we close this week?
And I'd love to give a shout out to Mez Love as well. Me and Mez have gone back many, many years. The kind of friend that I've had at the house, and she has been listening to the podcast lately, and it seems like it came at just the right time for Mez. So, Mez, I love you. I miss you. I'm really, really proud of the work we've done here, and I'm really stoked that you're actually listening to it, and especially that it's helping you. So I hope I can come see you in San Francisco one of these days. And again, just thank you for listening.
Much love, Maz.
Thank you.
Yes. To every listener, to every viewer, you listeners, I'm still learning. There's listeners that don't know you can watch us on YouTube. So if you don't know, now you know to watch us on YouTube, all platforms. Your feedback blesses us so much. We love you guys. Thanks for being on this journey with us together. Faithful to tune in, listen every week. Like Hip, we're going to keep showing up to be the truest and best versions of ourselves and be beautifully clumsy to try and share that with you every single week. Thank you all. We love you all. Till next week. Blessings.